Okay, this is UGG TV and all our radiant glory, at least my radiant glory. The late great Bob Andrews, as I said before, is late and great, and I can only assume he's coming. You never know. I can't say much. I was late for the other show last week. In fact, I was a week late, but I couldn't do any better. That was Country Time. No, it wasn't. It was a Melmo's Music. Up Powell Valley way there, on the left as you're going up. You might want to check it out some Friday or Saturday evening. Pretty good music, pretty good crowd. They have a little feed up there once a month where everybody takes a covered dish or uncovers a dish or something.
Are we on yet?
Yeah, I am. Lock the door. Lock the door. Don't like to be snuck up on too many times. Don't like to be snuck up on too many times.
The reason I'm late, actually I was up there setting up my email address on my computer up there, so.
Am I supposed to email you now? Am I supposed to email you now?
That's what you're supposed to do. It's btawalkabout@yahoo.com.
I guess I'll pass on that. You just
Hey folks,
send me a.
what we got?
I ain't got no. I ain't got my
Give me
email
one of
address.
those.
Well, I don't know. I'll get it. I'll get it some of these days.
What?
Your email address.
Oh, I was wanting one of those cards.
Well, it ain't got the email address on it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna duck out here in just a few minutes. I need to get back up there and do some more work.
You're gonna go watch the ball game.
There ain't no ball game on tonight.
Well, you're gonna get a pre.
Ashley's up there. We're working on some things.
You're gonna have one of them discussions that they have before the ball game starts.
Okay, yeah, we'll have a
Ashley-
pre-game discussion.
Ashley, your daughter.
Yeah.
Tommy, wanna know how many daughters you had named Ashley?
No, that's how many I had. My name was Amanda.
Okay. She gets mad every time I mention
That
that.
gal that come up here looking at that washer, that was that Amanda's mom-in-law at one time.
And whatever happened to that Amanda?
Huh?
Whatever happened to that Amanda?
She's at women's prison in Nashville.
Really? I don't guess I'll ever get my money back on that phone then, will I?
And what?
That $20 phone she pawned me.
Oh.
I didn't care for that.
Yeah, she's like most of them. You know, she's got religion since she's been in jail.
Well, I guess Hansel will have to go down and see her.
Well, maybe you get Hanford or what's his name? Sexton to go down there with you.
No, no, they don't know how to drive.
Well,
I'm gonna let them go over themselves.
You know, I just wondered, down at them halfway houses, do they have conjugal visits down there?
I don't know. Halfway conjugal, I guess.
Maybe halfway.
Yeah. That's bad. Oh, your girlfriends are in jail, huh? That's bad. You can't keep your women out of jail, Bob. You need to start bonding, country.
Well, you know, they fired what's his name? Hatmaker's brother.
Oh, no.
Huh?
You're talking about the city judge?
Wes's brother.
Barred him from what?
They barred him from being the bondsman.
Oh, barred him. I don't know nothing about that.
Well, yeah, the district attorney said that if you have a felony conviction that you cannot be a bondsman, that just getting your citizenship back doesn't necessarily entitle you to be a bondsman. And my question was, does it entitle you to run for county mayor?
Well, apparently not. I mean, it don't keep you from it. Dixie Concrete sells boat anchors. We're proud to announce that Dixie Concrete has the best boat anchors that you can buy in this county.
They got the hardest boat anchors.
They got the hardest boat anchors, and they'll hold your boat in place.
Right.
I need two of them.
Right, and if you need your driveway concreted, you can't go anywhere and get the service, reliability, and you get exactly what you need.
Yeah, good concrete, Dixie concrete. Right. And Wilson's propane, which I warmed this place up with and turned it off. It's getting too warm.
Wow.
I didn't use any of that flavored propane. I just used that regular warm.
Well, now wait a minute. I want to tell you what. I had a complaint.
562-5444
went down there to Diggers the other day, and he got some propane. When he got back, it didn't smell a bit like hickory smoke. I said, well, do you tell him you want it the hickory smoke brand? He says, no, I thought it all. I said, no, you have to specifically request that hickory smoke brand.
Yeah, because you need to go back and buy another tank and see if they get it right this time.
That's right. And he buys all his down there. He's just picking, you know.
I know, but he still needs to, keep buying. Sooner or later, he'll get a hickory smoke.
You get it right sooner or later, yeah.
Well, you know what you do on that, don't you? On them Mr. Heaters?
What?
You get you a piece of stove wood and stick through the eye of that thing, just a splinter, and you'll get that hickory flavor. If you like the smell of dead fish, you can stick one of them through there.
That's what you put on the manifold of a car.
Oh, yeah.
When they get married.
Yeah. I used to know no guy.
I never forget, first night my buddy, when they got back off their honeymoon, we tied a goat to his door.
Ooh.
Oh, go, well, he put up with that all night long, and he decided he was not going to put up with it 2 nights in a row, so he took it up to a friend of his farm, and he put the goat in the pen with some hogs.
Uh-oh.
Well, the hogs killed the goat and ate the goat,
yep.
And one of the hogs didn't chew the bones up too good, and it punctures and enters, and it killed the hog. What? So that putting that goat to the door had a lot of ramifications to it.
Did he have to pay for a pig and a goat both? There's some guys out there where I lived back years ago tied a cow's tail to the fence and come back by to turn her loose, and the cow's gone. But the tail was waiting on. They took a wagon apart out there one time and put it up on top of the barn.
Took what?
A wagon apart and put it on top of the barn.
Yeah, well, when I was in college, I had a buddy, his name was Bean was his last name.
Bean?
Bean.
Oh, Bean. I used to know him. Yes, I used to date a Mary Ann Beam over in Raleigh.
No, his name was Bean.
She's a good-looking girl.
I forget what his first name was, but we called
Jim?
him we called him Beaky.
Beaky Bean.
Because he looks like Beaky Buzzard. He honestly did. Well, Beaky's daddy had a little money, and Beaky drove a 1934 Ford Coupe. Roadster.
Not to be confused with the toupee. We called them coupes around here.
Yeah, coupe. So we took that thing apart and reassembled it. I had to take the wheels off of it and the fenders and carried the rest of it up to the 3rd floor and reassembled it up on the 3rd floor of the dormitory. Beaky got to looking for his car and said, "What's up on the 3rd floor?"
Low.
Well, Beaky, if you watching, Clarice, that was his first name, Clarice. He's retired now, but he was a dentist in Charlotte, North Carolina for a long time.
Well, Mary Ann Beam's daddy was a dentist in Asheville.
Really?
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah, Clarice, if you're watching, I'll send him our website and he'll watch. Clarice will. We'll have to do that. Yeah, I went down to see him in his office. He had a real nice practice down there. I said, is Beaky here? He said, who's Beaky? I said, you tell Dr. Bean that somebody out here wants to see Beaky. he knew who it was. He come out. He still had his gloves on and everything. He said, I knew it had to be you. I'm the one that named him.
How long ago's that been?
Let's see, 47, 56 years.
Since you saw him as a dentist?
No, oh, no. That's been, that was been somewhere about 35, 36 years ago, something like that.
How do you know he's still alive?
I ain't seen no buzzers circling over there.
They don't circle their own. They don't circle their own.
I never thought about that.
Sorry, Binky.
Sorry, but he might be dead, Beaky. I don't know. I'll call him and say I got his telephone number. I got a director from the school that's got his number listed.
If you know anybody that's needing the services of a funeral director, then we can't help you. But if you're just feeling kind of sick, we recommend Vital Care, Campbell County.
Vital Care, that's Vital Care Medical Transport.
562-9370 or call 911 and request.
40-some years experience.
Yeah, 40-some years.
I want to tell you about this guy driving a taxi cab. He's riding up the road and the fellow in the back seat wanted to say something to him, and he reached up there and tapped him on the shoulder. And when he did, he lost control of the cab, went out through the woods and into a tree. The fellow says, what will happen? Says, all I did was tap you on the shoulder. He says, you have to understand this is my first day driving a taxi. And for 25 years I drove a hearse.
Ooh, that wouldn't get you, would it?
He said he drove a hearse for 25
Yeah, I figured out where that was going.
I can imagine what, you know, I had a 1963 Cadillac hearse. This was about 1974, so it wasn't all that old, you know. 10-year-old hearse ain't old at all. It's not nearly as old as the people that haul around most of the time. But I bought this gold-colored 1963 Cadillac hearse. Well,
I wanted one of them. I wanted one of them.
Well, I put a big cooler in the back. I kept it full of ice and beer, you know, and that's the way I run around, you know. And I also had a big old St. Bernard dog by the name of Abigail. Well, most time Abigail rode with me, and she rode in the back there, you know, where the cooler was. And one night I was leaving the restaurant, and these two old barflies were there. Had nobody picked them up and take them home. They said, Bob, would you give us a ride home? I said, yeah, but you have to ride in my hearse. They said, we ain't never rode in a hearse. I said, well, if I take you home, you have to ride in that hearse. So I was getting ready to close up, and I said, y'all go on out there and get in the hearse. I said, you know, we had one front seat, you know. Well, Abigail was in the back.
Yeah.
They're sitting there in the hearse, and Abigail, there wasn't nothing but the curtain pulled across there. Abigail sticks her nose out through there, and cold nose is one of them. They both come out of that hearse just a screaming. And then I finally calmed them down. Something touched her, something touched. I said it was just Abigail, my dog. Well, I finally got Abigail, which is a real humble old dog, good dog. I introduced them to Abigail, and I finally took them home. But that hearse was well known.
I'd say it was.
19, let's see, I was about 19. That hearse was about 10 years old when I bought it.
I wanted one of them, but I never did get one.
Yeah, and I bought a.
I wanted to make a camper out of one.
I bought a Packard one time. Packard limousine. Had 3 doors. It was about as long as my motorhome. And I drove that thing around for a long time. The reason I bought it, it had a bad transmission, and nobody knew how to work on an Ultramatic transmission. But I had a friend that was an expert on them. I carried it down there, and old Sam, he said, I'll have it out of here tomorrow, you know, and he fixed it right up.
What year model? I mean, when did you have that?
When did I have it? I must have had it in the 60s.
Pop owned a good-looking Packard, run good and the transmission's out on it, he'd give $40 for it. And he had it here and never could find a transmission for it. That would have been about 69.
Okay.
He never did find a transmission. It's been 68, 67, 68. He never did find a transmission for it, so he finally sold it for $1, and the guy gave him a bad check. Of course, he sold him more than one car, but he got $1 a piece out of them for scrap,
Right.
and a check bounced. He didn't even try to collect it. But it was a sharp car. It had genuine leather seats.
Hey, you ought to go to a Packard automobile convention sometime. Packard made some fabulous automobiles.
This and your, it just sat like sitting in the couch in the living room, buddy. And leather, genuine leather, and it wasn't none of that old cheap stuff either.
Right, I know.
Green and white.
Well, let me tell you what I had one time. You can look it up on the website here. I had a Packard Caribbean convertible. Now you talking about a fine automobile. I hate I sold that thing. I just didn't have the money to fix it up. I'd buy things and then I'd have to sell them at a profit to get my money back. I couldn't afford to keep them.
Yeah.
And I had a 1917 Buick touring car. When I sold it, it had less than 9,000 miles on it.
It's probably wore out.
No.
1917.
It was bought in South Carolina. It never been titled. It was bought in South Carolina before South Carolina ever had titles. It was sold from whoever owned it in South Carolina to somebody in North Carolina before North Carolina became a title state. And I bought it from that person. They had no title to it because there'd never been a title to it. So I had to go all the way back down to South Carolina, Spartanburg. Grady Ballard's the one that I had to go through down there. Grady's dead now, I'm sure, to get a title to that 1917 Buick.
Well, I never did own a 1917 Buick, and I never want to own one. But if I had one, I'd be selling it.
But you ought to, if you hear of a Packard, gathering of Packard owners, you know. They had one up at Natural Bridge, Virginia. I went to one time. I was working up out of somewhere close to Natural Bridge, and that's some of the finest automobiles you ever seen. Nearly every one of them were black.
And that old man had was white and green.
Huh?
White and green.
Right.
Now, I believe it had a dark brown interior, or black interior,
Maybe.
leather. I remember that.
But that old Packard limousine I had was some automobile. Everybody knew. I mean, it was longer than this room here.
Yeah. Well, do you reckon you could buy Packard parts at Napa?
I bet you could.
What we call them and see?
Huh?
What we call them and see?
Well, he's not there right now.
No, he's not there?
Huh?
You mean if I call 562-9406, I wouldn't get to talk to him?
I don't know whether he'd come on there or not.
I might call him first thing in the morning and
Yeah,
check
you
on
call him
Packard
first thing in
parts.
the morning. I guarantee he'll come up with some Packard parts.
Anybody needs Packard parts or any other kind of parts ought to call
They
him.
had an ultramatic automatic transmission is what they had. And this old boy lived over. I taught to one of his kids in school. So I had to be after 60. It had to be in the 60s. He was an expert on those things. He said there ain't no trouble to him.
Well, could you still get parts? When did they quit making them? In the 50s, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't have no Napa back then.
Huh?
They didn't have Napa
I
back
don't
then.
but that's all right. They bought somebody out that had parts. And I'll tell you another fine old automobile if you want to go to a convention is Hudson.
I never did like a look for Hudson. I tell you what, though, Studebaker made some pretty cars.
Yeah, they did.
I think they ought to, if there's anybody allowed in the family alive, they ought to
Right.
sue Mercedes for stealing their
Right,
design.
right. There's a fellow down here in Jacksboro has got about a 37 or 38 Nash coupe.
Yeah. It's strange the front wheels ain't fell off of it yet. I don't know about that, but you know them Ramblers didn't have no frame.
I know that.
You had the wheels welded to the fenders.
I know. I know that. I've owned a couple. I drove a little old Nash Rambler from Greensboro to Anchorage, Alaska.
Anchorage?
Yeah.
You mean they'll run that far?
I don't know how many quarts. It was new, but it took several quarts of oil between Greensboro and Anchorage, Alaska. I had a lady bought it, had it outfitted with heaters and everything. She moved up there from Greensboro, and she said, me and my buddies all drove up here. I buy a plane ticket back, and you can stay up here whatever you want to. We drove it up there and flew back, and it made it up there.
There's some boys come in there one day. This fella had stole his brother's car. It's an old Rambler, he's wore out. But he stole his brother's car up there in Cincinnati or somewhere. This bunch of boys sat around and said, let's go somewhere. And they got in this old Rambler and drove down here. And they drove it to right up there. They come from Dayton or Cincinnati, one down here. And they drove it down here and they got right up there and the wheel fell off of it. The driver's side wheel, left front wheel fell off of it. And they managed to get turned around. There wasn't much traffic then, but now there's a speed limit 65 out there then.
Right.
Well, they got across the road sliding that wheel and pulled it in here in the parking lot and sold it for $35, I think. 25 or 35. Getting there, they called up the bus station to see what cost them bus fare to get back up there. And old man paid them that for it. And I don't think he ever got his money back. I don't think he ever sold anything off of it. But it's a good running motor. The motor sat out there for a long time. He figured somebody'd buy it and put it on the
What year model was it?
That would have been probably a 58, 57, 58. Remember little ones, you know,
Yeah.
little nice Rambler. And they had left the guy's car keys in the car. All his shop keys and everything was in his car. And he come down here the next weekend and brought the title and got his keys. They'd left his keys down here.
Right.
He had to drive all the way down here to get his
Right.
keys.
How about that? You ever ride in the Metropolitan? You know what I'm talking about? A nice Rambler Metropolitan.
No.
Little old car ain't much bigger than that. Little old bitty car. You never did see one of them?
I've seen them, but never did
Yeah.
ride in one. You never
I've
seen them.
owned one.
Well, I never did ride in a nice. Yeah, I have too. Them there little old Falcons is about the same thing.
Yeah. Falcon's a little bit bigger than a Metropolitan.
They had a flat head motor in them. They had one head bolt disguised as a stud. I never did find it. Old man had to take a head off of it.
Right.
And
You had to replace stud bolts, didn't you?
well, no, and this here, it had a head bolt and it had another bolt sticking up out of it where you put the battery cable on. It just looked like a boss there on top of that head.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the head off of it, and I finally give up. And he come back and said, "We have to take a bolt out of it." We took a bolt out of it, and we overhauled that motor. And Josh Crabtree never did pay us. He's dead now, but he still owes the old man $35.
Like that fellow said, he made it. He got real close to God before he died. I said, I think he hoped he did a lot better with the Lord than he did with the people that befriended him.
And he sure did. I remember I worked all day one day getting that thing tore down. We put it back together, and Josh never did pay.
Let me call my technician right quick.
Go on if you want to.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'll tell her I'll be to make sure she's still there. She ain't know that ain't there. There used to be going on.
Bob needs technical advice.
Hey, you still there? I'll be right there. All right, bye. Yeah, I'm gonna get back up there and work with my technician.
Well, I may close up early tonight since I'm here by myself.
Right, okay.
But we got a show going anyway. I'll put something else on after I finish.
Right.
We'll have a...
Okay, well, look, I'll see you tomorrow then, okay?
Okay.
Night, folks.
I can be in
See ya.
stereo.
Gotta go be with my technician. I'll lock you in.
Okay. I've been locked in before. Like you run into the fence. Well, that was Bob Andrews, folks. The one and only. Thank goodness there's only one. I'm going to do this thing for 30 minutes tonight as opposed to an hour because we're running that other show all the time anyway. We will be doing an occasional show on this thing as an extra. I had some westerns on last week. Had a good western by John Wayne. I think I'll run that after this show is over. If I can find it, it's McClintock. If you're familiar with McClintock, well, where would it be? I don't see it somewhere. MCCLI. Well, McClintock. That's strange. That ain't no count. Maybe I need to type in something different. I found it. Okay, yes sir. Well, I've got it keyed up, and when we go off tonight, I'll put McClintock on in about 3 minutes. They had the little discussion about saving the planet down at Jacksboro last night. My understanding is we're going to do our part by putting solar panels on the roofs of houses, roofs of schools, and public buildings, and that's going to save the planet and make us all rich. And so far, I've not heard a discussion of maybe letting each one of us put a solar panel on top of our houses so we don't ever have to pay more property taxes. But we're going to work on that. We're going to try our best to get that working. So this time of the year, if you like me, and put it off till the last week, we won't have to dread it because there won't be more property taxes. We'll be making the planet clean and green, tax-free. I love that. Thanks for tuning in, folks. It's been a joy. This will be stored if you want to watch it again later. I'm going to go off and then... In fact, I'm not even going to go off. I'm just going to stop recording so it'll be saved.